I guess they're getting good publicity out of this because the word's getting around to churches. And like this kid who's trashing PZ Myers and talking about how wonderful the movie is, also calls it balanced right before he tells us the spoiler that it's all about Nazism and the Holocaust coming from evolution. But he also calls it like the greatest documentary ever made. You tool. You complete fucking tool.
I read a post from that guy, the Christian who claimed to have seen what went on in the line, and it was on a kind of pseudo-Christian site, right? Mm-hmm. And yeah, he gives his story, and then people poke holes in it.
Yeah,
and then he says, "Well." He sort of said something that suggests he didn't really see what happened. He was going on what the producers or some other people who were there told him. So it's like, oh, good grief, dude! And
so his story starts with, "I was standing behind PZ Myers and I saw this," and then it's revamped to, "Well, it wasn't quite that," and then it was revamped to, "Well, I heard this from somebody else."
Yeah.
Well, you remember when we went to church that first time to Gateway?
Yeah.
And the guy was telling all these stories about how he used to be a bodybuilder and a rock climber, and we were sitting around going, that guy doesn't look that much like an ex-bodybuilder. Did this story really happen to him, or did he get it from some book of sermons that just says to personalize it? And I think eventually I concluded that, yes, there are those big books of sermons that just tell you personal anecdotes to tell other people. And there's not that much concern about whether it's actually truthful to tell these stories about yourself.
Right.
Same kind of mindset, I'm thinking.
So yeah, that was the absolutely belly laugh, hilarious news event of the week.
Yeah,
and the cool thing is
great.
That it's still going on and it's going to continue. This movie's less than a month from release.
Mm-hmm. April 18th.
There are groups of atheists who are trying to find out where the last screenings are, and they're all not only going to register to go fill the auditorium so that there's not necessarily completely conciliatory crowd there to see this movie, but they're also making sure that PZ Myers is signed up on every list for every showing for the rest of the promotional tour.
Are they going to come to Austin?
No, Austin wasn't on the list. They did Dallas and Houston and
all right. Well,
one
I'm
other
not
place in
driving
Texas.
that far just to see their
it has to be seen at the Draft House, really.
Of course, yes.
I hope that they play it because I mean, it's Austin. They're going to get maybe one Christian and a shitload of atheists packed into that theater laughing.
Oh, and one of the things that Mathis reportedly said, and I'm saying reportedly because I wasn't fucking there and I'm not about to misrepresent the case, but somebody asked him why he didn't want PZ Myers to come in, and there were reports that he mentioned something about, well, we thought he'd be unruly, whereas Dawkins is nice and polite.
Yeah, sure.
Then, evidently, kind of as a halfway joke, he said he did want PZ Myers to see the film in April when he paid his $10. Hello, you paid the guy for an interview. You thank him in your credits, and you specifically removed him from the line that could see it for free because you want $10 from him? Pull the other one.
Right.
You ain't convincing anybody of that.
And a lot of atheists are starting to well, not necessarily atheists, people who aren't complete shitheads are trying to organize...
unlike atheists.
who are trying to organize sort of, not necessarily protests, but they're trying to harm the publicity of this film and not make it successful. And my take is we should do everything we can to make this a huge success. From what I understand of the movie, it's
tedious and boring and awful.
It is going to convert more creationists to atheism than anything else. Just seeing the sheer idiocy of it. So I think we should publicize the hell out of this movie, give them enough money to make sequel after sequel, give us entertainment value. It is going to be well worth making this movie
Same as
prominent.
The Left Behind video
you have to
game,
be careful.
which I did see in a bargain bin recently for like $10 now.
Yeah.
But
It's not cheap enough.
Not enough.
No,
Nope.
not cheap enough.
I don't know that you can... If you give me $10, I might install it. I don't trust it on my new machine. I'll put it on one of the old ones.
Yeah.
But
I've got it.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
It's so fundamentally broken.
I'm not I don't necessarily agree that we should be encouraging them to make more and make more money.
Yeah,
not like just donate money, but,
but
if they're providing something that we can take entertainment value, and I think it's better than going to see some Michael Bay piece of shit.
This is not the kind of entertainment. When I want entertainment, I put in something that has nothing at all to do with religion or science.
more explosions.
Perhaps I deal with it too much. I definitely deal with it more than most of the people. But my thing is, Martin actually mentioned this on the blog. There are some people who were going to protest it.
Right.
He went over and talked to them on he joined their Facebook thing, and I think he successfully convinced them that maybe this isn't the best thing, that maybe instead we should be encouraging educational responses. Well, I think I'm getting it right. The National Center for Science Education, which I believe is where Eugenie Scott is, along with the Dawkins Foundation, are actually now working on something called Expelled Exposed. So they're producing actual responses to the claims and
Made in the movie.
Yeah. And as part of this, the first video went up, which is the one you were talking about, where Dawkins and PZ Myers are talking about the screening and the event,
Right.
and how he was expelled from Expelled.
Yeah, go to the Dawkins site and check it out. It's great.
There's a number of claims that are in this movie, and I haven't seen it yet, but it's based on a premise that there are people who, because they want to advocate intelligent design, they're losing their job. No, that's not quite the case.
Well, the one they rail
Probably
on,
because they're not
I think
doing
Knight,
science.
Dr. Knight is the fellow, but I'm not certain. The one they rail on most is as being fired from a tenured position for believing in intelligent design. I looked the guy up, and it's not so much the believing in intelligent design as writing a paper on it and putting it in the peer-reviewed journal that he was one of the editors of without any peer review.
Whoa!
Not
That's
supposed to do that.
That's
That's
not
not
exactly a
science either.
content-based infraction.
Yep.
Yeah, that's for those who aren't
I'd
familiar
kick
with the
the
peer
asshole
review
for that.
process. That's like taking your expense report, signing your boss's name to it, and passing it off to accounting to get your rebate or your payment. That's
Wow.
yeah, and we find that a lot of it is similar. There's a guy who lost his tenure, and it's because I'm a proponent of intelligent design. No, and you know what? I could even see a case being made to teach intelligent
This was
design.
the Sal Cordova case where
No.
the guy actually was trying to get tenure, but but they said no.
Yes.
And
Well, I mean,
and he said, "But look, I meet all the criteria for getting tenure." And then everybody, the response I
Boo-hoo.
heard from all over the place was, "People don't just go down a little checklist and then you're automatically in if you meet the requirements. It's like complaining that you meet all the requirements for marriage and yet the person still won't marry you. You have to actually be
Right. That's
personable."
perfect.
Well,
Yes.
While we're
And-
mentioning that a lot of these people are getting fired or not getting hired or et cetera, and it's not really because of intelligent design, but it's because of other reasons, it's good to point out they should also be fired purely for intelligent design if they're in science. There's
Unless they have actual hard evidence.
right.
Well, their personal beliefs. I mean, I think that there's a conflict. If they can avoid the conflict, that's fine. If there's a science teacher, whether it's in public junior high, high school, or college, who's actually teaching the curriculum and actually teaching evolution, and the students are actually learning. If privately they believe that it's all hogwash, I don't care.
Private is fine, but if they're a proponent of intelligent design in any public sense, any public sense,
what they do off campus in their own time,
any
their own business.
academic public sense. I mean,
I think they could be working at the Discovery Institute, and as long as they're teaching, doing the job is all that matters.
but that's never the case. If a college professor does porn, they can get fired. I think this is along those lines.
I don't think that should be legal either.
It shouldn't be, but it is.
Well, that's the case.
Okay.
I'm talking about how things should be. Now, we're talking about jobs and stuff. Whether or not somebody's given tenure, then I think you could maybe consider that they've done porn and that they work for the Discovery Institute, because then they become a representative of the university, and the university has an image to protect.
Yeah.
So I have no problem with denying tenure, but as long as they're doing their job and not publicly representing themselves as a representative of the university in this way, So no problem.
Yeah, right.